Hi, teammates. My name is Sean J. McCall, and as usual, I am your host of the Eurostep, where we look behind the scenes of players, athletes themselves, trainers, coaches, agents, whoever's in the fray of European basketball or basketball in general, for that matter. But we also have guests from other sports as well, so that we can get different backgrounds from different people. Tonight is a different episode than usual for me, at least. For you, it might not be any different than usual, but for me, I did a call out, a shout out to anyone who wanted to be on the show this week, a rather spontaneous one, and my guest, Jason, he said he would do it. We hooked up a time, so that's why he's here. That's the first part, is that I've never done a spontaneous thing like that before. The second part is I did not prepare like I usually do for this episode. I wanted to kind of test myself a little bit because I felt like the episodes were getting stale, that I was asking the same questions and things like that. So I wanted to try a little bit something different and not do too much background checking of my guest. I did just a little bit, but what I would like for this podcast to do is to be more of a off the cuff, off the dome kind of thing, where I get to know somebody, that we're like really just chatting back and forth and getting to know each other. There just happens to be a camera on us, So I'd rather to move more in that direction than a kind of scripted question, kind of interview kind of thing. So today is my test, and Jason was great enough to be my guinea pig. And yeah, so before we begin, please look at the bottom of your screen. There'll be the comment section. If you would like to ask a question during the live broadcast, and please throw a question in there, and I'll try to get it in there. If you put it in the comment section, everybody will see it. If you put it in the speech bubble with the question mark on there, only I will see it, but I will look in there to see if people have written. Yeah, so let's get right to it, right? So tonight's episode is with Jason Faulknor. He's my guest tonight. He's a Canadian former professional athlete, former professional basketball player in the likes of Taiwan, Portugal, and Australia as well. And he's been retired now for 11 years. And he's doing some really cool things off the court. And that's a lot what I want to talk about as well. Also about his journey, how he came overseas, and why maybe he stopped as early as he did. So I'm going to get him in now. Get Jason on in. He should be in any second now. Yep, there we go. What's
Yes,
good,
sir.
Jason?
How's it going, man? How you doing?
Other than being sick as a dog, I can't laugh too much
All
when
right,
I
all
start
right,
coughing.
all right.
So
No jokes then. No jokes.
no jokes. Don't make me laugh, man. Don't make me laugh. So, like I said, Jason, man, I really appreciate you coming on and kind of being spontaneous about being a guest on my show. And I explained to you, I kind of told you you got to carry the show, um, but it's not like that. It's just like I told you, I just wanted to make it a little bit more of a, getting to know somebody, getting to
Yeah,
vibe with somebody kind of thing than a set question list that I normally have. And I didn't do a whole lot of checking into your background. I did just enough that I don't look like a total idiot on here.
right,
But
right.
but through the conversation, I'm sure we'll get to know a lot more about you, and that's what's more important to me than
No,
anything else.
for sure, for sure, for sure. Thanks for having me on, man.
Thank you, man. So let's go way back. Since you were a professional player as well, let's go back to how it began. How did you start playing ball? Where did the love for basketball come?
Well, to be honest, obviously being from Canada, my first sport was hockey. So I grew up playing hockey, ice skating, all that
Right.
stuff, and the next sport was baseball. So I was a really good baseball player, and those were the two sports that I focused on. It was hockey and baseball. So I couldn't find skates that could fit me as I was growing, and I decided that I was gonna play baseball. So I started off with softball, played some baseball, and it wasn't until about grade five, grade six, where um, I discovered basketball. My older sister, she's a phenomenal athlete. She played basketball, track and field, tennis, soccer. So I was kind of like following her because she was kind of
Just a
like,
second. On that note, just a second. Sorry to interrupt you, but my best friend, I think, went to school with your sister.
really?
Did she go to Humber?
No, she didn't.
Oh, she didn't go to Humber?
No,
Okay,
she
then
didn't
I,
go to.
I got it.
My
Then I
my
got it.
younger sister went to Humber College. She played
Okay,
basketball.
then it was your younger sister then. It was
Yeah,
your younger sister because
yeah,
my best friend went to Humber.
yeah. My younger sister played at Humber.
Okay, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so because of my sister, I kind of wanted to play basketball because I knew she was playing in high school. So my love for the game started there. She was the first one to get the basketball net. My dad got it for her. So we had a basketball hoop outside over the garage. And from there on, man, I just started watching basketball. Michael Jordan obviously was my influence. Wanted to be like Mike. You know, who didn't want to be like Mike growing up? So um, the love for the game started with my sister and just watching MJ back in the day.
Let me go back to the hockey issue. I had
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. I had a former Canadian national team player, ice hockey player, Dustin Jeffrey.
Okay.
He plays now professionally here in Germany, and I had him on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about his whole career, hockey, and everything. Hockey is not the brother sport. Were you the only brother out there playing hockey when you were a kid?
Well, you know what? We played a lot of road hockey as a kid, and growing up, our neighborhood is very multicultural. So there's black kids, Filipino kids, white kids, Indian kids,
Good.
playing hockey. And, getting on the ice was one thing for me because I had trouble finding skates. You know what I mean? Because I was taller than everyone. So finding like size 12, 13 skates was an issue. So finally got a pair, but
You probably had your feet balled up like this in those skates,
exactly,
man.
exactly. That's exactly how it was. So, um, yeah, man. Probably one or two of us.
Mhm.
Three the most. Three black kids playing hockey. But yeah, it all started on the ice and then baseball. So
Were you were you ever considering to play baseball even after you started playing basketball, or when you started playing basketball, that was kind of the switch?
you know what? I really enjoyed baseball. That was my sport. I actually played in high school as well.
Mhm.
So transitioning from middle school to high school, I was playing everything. I played everything. So like basketball, football. I did do volleyball as well and baseball. So I did have goals of playing, besides basketball. My
Mhm.
dad was really disappointed when I decided just to stick with basketball. But yeah, baseball was an option. It was an option.
So you were like a real multi-talented athlete. Thinking back to those days, a lot of kids these days are really starting to specialize very, very early, which I think is total nonsense. But
Yeah,
um, you played a lot of different sports.
yeah.
Do you think that helped you with your basketball skills as an overall athlete?
Oh, for sure, 100%. Because with a lot of sports requires different skills, different
Hmm.
movements and stuff like that. And I think it all started obviously playing outside.
Yeah,
Nowadays you don't see kids playing outside
yeah.
anymore. But I played outside every day, exposed myself to a lot of different sports, and just I just had a love for sports. And because of that, I feel that helped me being a better athlete, where I just picked which sport I enjoyed the most. I was a pretty good football player in high school, highly recruited for a lot of big schools, but I just enjoyed basketball a lot more. So I think being well
And what you're
rounded.
6'8", right?
I'm 6'6".
You're 6'6". So I
Yeah,
mean, you were tall, you
yeah,
know.
I played wide receiver, tight end,
Mhm.
outside linebacker. Um, you know, did a lot of that stuff. I was my high school football coach was very upset that I decided to go with basketball instead of football because I had a lot of big schools from the ACC, you know, recruited me after
So you were putting in
yeah,
work.
yeah, man, I was putting in work, man. Of course, I was putting in work, man.
Okay. I'm gonna tell you my football story. I actually started playing football first before I started playing basketball, but everybody in my family plays basketball.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah.
destined for me to play
Right,
basketball. But organized playing, I played football when I was 7 until I was about 10.
yeah,
And then I didn't play for a long time. And then I thought when I was in high school, when I was a senior in high school, I thought, oh, I'm just gonna jump back in it, right? I'm
right.
6'8", this skinny. Um, I was like 175. I was like 6'8", 175. And I'm like, I'm just going to jump back in for my senior year. It's the cool thing to do in high
Yep.
school, you know. Man, I played one game. I caught one ball and got my ass knocked out. Woke up in the trainings room, and I was already a big time basketball recruit.
Yeah.
And I remember like waking up from they had like the smelling salt and stuff. And I was like, oh shit, I'm good. I took that. I took
You woke
everything
up.
out. I was like, that's it. I'm good.
Like
Like no, I'm good on
yo, it's usually after the first hit you realize, is this what I want to do?
that.
And I actually got hurt more in basketball than I did in football. So it was just weird. But with football, guys were trying to kill each other in practice, and it didn't make sense to me because I'm like, yo, we have a game. Why are we full on contact for football in practice when we have a game on Thursday? So, that's when I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to switch sports and just stick with basketball.
um, so let's fast forward a little bit. So your high school years, you're recruited in football, basketball. In Canada, it's a little bit different. The whole high school system
Yeah.
and recruiting. And how did you end up going to college in the States, being from Toronto, being from Canada? Did you go through like the AAU circuit, or did you play on some kind of special traveling teams where you could
Yeah.
get noticed?
So I did. So the high school is different. Like when I was in high school, there wasn't a lot of guys getting recruited. I tried transferring to bigger schools in Toronto and the GTA, and my parents weren't having it. They're like, "Yo, you're gonna stay put where you are." And I wanted to go to the States. I had an uncle that lived in New York, and I wanted to move down there, but there was no room for me because my uncle and his family, there's no rooms for me. So I just figured, you know what, I'm gonna have to stay here and just work my butt off. You know what I mean? And that's what I did. I played for Grassroots. That's a program here under Coach Rowe, and yeah, I was able to travel to the States quite a bit. Back in the day, like these guys are flying now. To
Yeah,
these games, we were taking like minivans with like 10
Ooh,
guys. Some guys,
long trips.
some guys sitting in the back, some guys sitting on the floor, and all this is just to get some exposure. You know
Right.
what I mean? So, obviously we go to the States with a chip on our shoulder, like we had something to prove, and a lot of times we came back, either winning the championship in the tournament, or the majority of the Canadian guys on the All Star team, because we were just hungry. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
that's when coaches started kind of coming up to check us out, and I wasn't highly recruited out of high school, but after a few tournaments, playing on some different teams, they started coming up, and quite a few schools started coming up and recruiting me. So,
Do you remember your first letter from a college? Who that was?
in grade 11, it was Humber College was the first one.
Okay.
I was in grade 11, and then we played a tournament, and uh, Oregon State was like my
Wow.
first was my first kind of like, yo, the coach likes you, or he spoke to my coach and was like, hey, there was a U.S. coach. I was like, what? For real? I was like,
Crazy.
out of my
That was
mind.
my
Yeah,
first letter too. They were my
yeah,
Oregon State was my very first letter.
yeah. It was Oregon State.
Crazy.
So I was excited about that,
Mhm.
and then from there, grade 11, grade 12. In Canada, we have grade 13. So,
Right.
I had 3 extra years of just playing a lot of basketball, and then the letters started coming in.
How did you narrow it down to your top five or top three or something like that? Was it just based on purely by your feeling with the coaches, or did you really dig into it? Because as a kid, as a 17, 18-year-old kid, you don't always know the right questions to ask. And if your family weren't
Right.
ones that were highly recruited, then you kind of fly in blind sometimes. But how did you, for yourself, base your like kind of top three, top five?
I kind of made the decisions by myself. Like my parents, they they're Jamaican. They moved to Canada. They don't really have an idea or anything about recruiting, about you know universities in the States and scholarships and stuff like that. Obviously, I let them know like, hey, there's a school in the state that's that's interested in me and coming to school. And it's like, okay, yeah, cool. But it wasn't really a big deal for them, but
Right.
it's not their fault. So for
Yeah, it's
me
just the way it
now,
is.
yeah, for me now, it's like, okay, I have some coaches that I played like my rep teams. I'd let them know, hey, like, what's the process? How do you go about this? Because
Mhm.
I'm not sure, So I just started doing like my own little research or asking a lot of questions. And for me, it was just kind of like a feeler for me, like who did I feel comfortable? Who seemed more genuine? A lot of coaches, they promise, if you come here, you know, this is what's going to happen. And for me, uh, I I was comfortable with a few schools. The communication between the coaches were consistent. They were asking, sending me letters. So like my top five was Bradley. It was Fordham University, Marquette, Western Michigan, uh, Florida A&M, and I think Nebraska. Those were like the top six.
Yeah.
And I was struggling back when I was in school. No one really knew about the SATs and ACTs. I didn't know about that. I thought that what, a school is interested in you, you pick. But you know, I only realized I needed to write a SAT was when Wake Forest was recruiting me for football, and I probably would have went there if I passed my if I had my score, because they were really showed a lot of interest, and I figured, hey, if I
Right.
play football, I could walk on for basketball,
Right.
and they're playing in the ACC, and I was like, whoa, that's a
Right.
big conference.
Right.
But I didn't know about the SAT and the ACT, so my journey in grade 11 started with that test in order to figure out, all right, well, I need to pass this test first, and then I can, pick whatever school I wanted to go to.
Got you. So how did you choose Bradley in the end?
So long story short, um, I had a tough time passing that test, and schools were dropping. They didn't want to wait, and the last two schools was Fordham and Bradley, and Bradley, they showed mad support. They waited. They even had contacts in Toronto of people that they knew that could help me pass this test. I was meeting with tutors. I was going to Sylvan Learning Center. I was going everywhere. So,
That's
uh,
dope.
yeah. So that right there showed me they really wanted me. And because of that, I was grateful for them, and they waited till the end. And when I finally passed, I was like, all right, I'm coming. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. What was your 4 years like at Bradley? I mean, now you're away from home.
yeah,
You're living in the States in a new
yeah.
country. Okay, it's similar, but it's still different. Um, what was your feeling like for those 4 years of being at Bradley?
I I was happy, man. It was a goal of mine. You know what I mean? Access to the States and getting a scholarship wasn't as easy as, I wouldn't say it wasn't as easy, because a lot of guys weren't going. There's
Right.
only three people from my high school that went to the States. Uh, who knows how many from Toronto went to the States, like 20 something years ago, 25 years ago.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So just to be able to say I played NCAA basketball was amazing. Um, when I got there, I didn't realize what I was actually getting into, because you're there. They say you're a student athlete, but to be honest, you're there to play basketball, man.
Yep.
And
Yep.
you have to, obviously, academically, you got to stay on top of your academics, because if you get below, you know, that 2.0
0.0.
probation, you can't play. You know what I mean? And a lot of it was just adjusting. I never knew the amount of time, dedication. Like I was struggling my first semester. I was struggling. I didn't know time management. I didn't
Yep.
know,
Yep.
you know, how to, you know, study properly, all these different pieces in order to be a successful student athlete at the collegiate level. No one told me. I had no one to come and prepare me. So, looking back, it was tough, um, but it was well worth it. There's times I wish I could go back and just be a student. or you know what I mean, and just be able to like hang out with the students on campus more.
Right.
'Cause, you know, from the morning we wake up at 6 o'clock till 10 o'clock, it's basketball, and your classes fit into those times. And then you have
Exactly.
study hall. You have study hall from like 7 to 10, and then it's bedtime, and then
Yeah.
up again and doing that again. So it was just like every day. You know what I mean?
A lot of people don't realize that a student athlete, yeah, you're getting your stuff paid for. You're kind of on campus. You're kind of living your life. You're living your dream. But they do everything not so that you can be the best student. They do
Exactly.
everything. They prepare everything. They have your schedule done so that you can be the best athlete. And you have to
Right.
kind of figure out your way to be that student. And some people it's easy, the transition.
Oh yeah.
Some
For
people
some,
it's not.
yeah. Yeah. It's an easy transition for some people. For me, it was hard
Right.
being away from my family,
Yeah.
being in another country. But luckily for me, I had two other Canadians on the team. So one of the guys, James Gillingham, we actually played rep basketball against each other. So he actually signed before me, and then I found out that he signed, and we played each other the following weekend in a tournament. So like that was great. And then I'm not sure if you know Jerome Robinson. He was from Westwood, in Malton, and he was actually a roommate of mine. He was a senior when I was a freshman. So he grew up like 10 minutes from me, and I knew about him, and I was trying to transfer to his high school when I was younger. That's when my dad said no, but you know, thing kind of full circle came around. I ended up
Right.
playing with him anyway, at the collegiate level at Bradley. So, um, yeah, it was a huge adjustment. But having those two guys from Canada
That
was
helps.
was yeah, it helped a lot. It helped a lot.
Basketball world is small, man.
Yeah, it's tiny. It's really
7 degrees of separation between anybody. I mean, like I told you, my best friend went to college with your younger sister.
yeah,
Come on,
exactly. And I was like,
you
what?
know, like, come on, like,
Yeah,
how does that happen? And he's from
yeah,
he's from Switzerland, and he went over to Toronto to go to school.
that's
We were
crazy.
teammates. We were teammates in Geneva, and he left to go to college in Toronto at Humber. And
Yeah,
now, what, 20 years later, you know,
right.
you and I are talking, and we find out that my best friend knows your sister, went to school with your sister. Like
Yeah,
the basketball world
crazy.
is
So
crazy
small.
stupid.
So small.
So when you were in college, at what point did you think, hey, maybe I'm not that bad at this game? Maybe I could be a pro.
I I I always knew I could play professional. Obviously, the goal was the NBA, and it was tough because when you realize that you're not the man anymore. Because I had to sit down and think about this myself. I sat one day, I was in my room in college. I'm like, you know what? Everyone on my team used to be the man on their high school, right? And very few guys get that role when they're at the collegiate level still.
Yeah, yeah.
And my team, we had the three of the top 10 scorers on my team in my senior year. My freshman year, we had two, and I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna have that role. So I need to figure out what my role is. And the coaches were helpful. They were clear. I had to humble myself, obviously, but
Right.
you know what I mean. In order for me to play, they told me, listen, you got to come off the bench with energy. You got to play good defense, grab rebounds, and run the floor. And I'm like, all right, I'll do that as long as I can play. I didn't work this hard to come sit on the bench.
Right.
So I'm like, you know what? Let me just do what the coaches need to do, and I accepted my role, man.
I
But deep
love that.
down, deep down, I knew I was more than a role player.
I
So,
love that you really reflected on that. Was there like one particular moment that you look back on when you were like, okay, damn, um, I'm the low man on the totem pole, and damn, like, was there
um,
like one moment? There was a moment like that for me, but I want to hear yours first.
well, so I remember I ended up, okay. So we had an exhibition game, and this was before the season started.
Your
And
freshman year?
yes, my freshman year,
Okay.
and I'll never forget this. I had 12 points at half. I had 12 points, And I was like, holy smokes, 12 points? I'm like, okay,
I'm
freshman,
balling.
12 points a half. Ball, yeah, balling. But the starting forward, he didn't play because he had a fractured foot. And I remember, I'll never forget this. He said to me, "Yo, don't think you're gonna have this all game, man. Don't think you're gonna be playing like this the whole year." Yo, he wasn't even happy for me. He's like, "Yo, don't get too comfortable. Don't get too happy just because he had 12 points. That you're not gonna have that again."
Wow.
And I was like, "Holy!" I don't even talk about this story. It's probably the third time I talk about this story, but I'll never forget it. And I was like, "Oh, okay." So then when he came back, obviously,
Wait a minute. He told you that at halftime?
after the game, after the game,
Oh, after the game. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
So I finished,
Okay.
yeah. So I had like 12 points, and he told me that after the game.
Okay.
I remember we had a school paper, had all the people that played, and it said Jason Faulknor from Canada, 12 points, freshman. I was like, oh shoot, I made the school paper. And then he's like, yo, don't think it, don't worry about that, man. You're not gonna have that again. And I was like, wow. And then I didn't have that again, to be honest. But I did play a lot.
Right.
But I wasn't an option in the offense.
Right.
You know what I mean? I was an energy guy, defense. Like I really honed in on defense, defensive specialists. But not to limit what I could do. I knew I could play, but to play on this team, I had to bring other pieces to the team. So.
Okay, my story, I've told this before on here, but real quick, my story was I was I started my freshman year out at the University of Arizona, and my roommate was someone you probably know, Damon Stoudemire.
Yep.
He was my
Mighty
roommate.
Mouse.
We were freshmen together at Arizona.
Okay.
And very first practice, we had a guy named Chris Mills. He played in the league for
Yep, I
quite a
know.
few years
Yep.
from LA. And I'm a three, and he's a three, and I got a huge hit. I'm getting recruited by big time schools coming out of high school. I choose Arizona. We're top 5 in the nation.
Yeah.
My head is huge, right? First practice, Chris Mills breaks my nose in practice, and he really did it on purpose, on some get the fuck off me,
Yeah.
young shit talking motherfucker, get up off me. And that's when I was like, yeah, okay.
You've arrived.
This is not going to be as
Yeah.
dope or as easy as I thought it was.
Yeah,
and actually, my second moment also included Chris Mills. Probably a couple of weeks later, we're lifting weights and stuff. First time in my life, I'm telling you, I was 6'8", 175, that. They called me PT, paper thin. That's how skinny I was. So we're lifting weights, and this is the first time I'm really lifting weights in my life. And I remember we were doing like chest or arms or something like that, dumbbells. And when you get the pump, the blood is running through, and your arms look a little bit bigger. So I'm looking in the mirror like, ooh, damn, this weightlifting actually started this. Ooh, I'm feeling nice, right? I feel good about myself. And Chris walks behind me on his way out, doesn't even look at me, and just goes, "It's just the blood running through your veins, you dumb rookie." This after he breaks my nose, right?
Wow.
So he's just dogging me though. He's just on my ass the whole time, right? So those are my two moments where I was like, okay, you ain't shit. Your mama ain't shit. Your daddy ain't shit. And you better change your tune, man. And that changed me, man. But I ended up transferring, but that realization was crazy. And then Damon, you could tell the very first day of practice, he was a pro. He was gonna be a pro.
Yo, listen, I had a moment like that too. It was my junior year. I don't know how we got Danny Granger, but he did 2 years at Bradley.
Right, I remember. Yeah, he was there. Yeah,
he came on a visit. We played pickup. I went to the coach. I'm like, yo, this guy's a pro. No, I told him I could call him right now, and I'll tell Coach Broussard. I said, Danny's a pro. He looks like a pro out there.
Yeah, some guys you just know.
Yo, it was crazy. And he had an amazing 2 years. He obviously ended up transferring, and he went to New Mexico and then killed it over there, and then got drafted by Indiana. But yeah, you see those players and you just know just the way
Yeah.
they
You just
move,
know. You just
just the way
know.
they
Yeah.
move. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, that for sure, pro.
So, so you do your 4 years at Bradley, and did you come overseas right away? Your first stop was Portugal, right?
Yeah,
Okay. Before you went to Portugal,
yeah.
what the hell did you know about European basketball?
I knew guys that were over there. I
Mhm.
knew there. I knew that guys that didn't play in the NBA, they had an opportunity to go over in Europe.
Right.
So I knew. I didn't say I knew a lot, but I did research. You know, had a couple teammates that after graduation they went over to play in Europe. So I knew a lot of players that I played with, played against, were over in Europe. So once I knew NBA wasn't the way for me or it didn't look good, I had to
Right.
figure out, yeah, how do I get overseas? Because I still have a lot of basketball left in here to play, and I really feel I can help a team win. So, you know, I started doing my research. My friend the other Canadian, James Gillingham, he was in Germany. So I think he played about 8 years in Germany.
Mm.
And I told him I wanted to play. And he's like, well, there's a guy that I know. He's an agent. I'll send him your information. And then we talked for a little bit. I had to like dig up some film. Didn't really have big numbers, so I had to find a
Right.
game where I played reasonably well. I had a double
Right.
double, 11 points, 11 rebounds, and that was like my first opportunity. And I got it. I was able to. Those highlights got me a gig in Portugal.
Like it's crazy you say that because me doing my consultations with players, my kind of educating players, I've run into quite a few who think or who say, okay, I don't have this great resume. But what they don't understand is you don't always need a resume. You don't always need that fat resume. You don't need to average
Exactly.
35 points in college. And I just had a conversation with like this the other day with a client, and I told him what's important is not that 35-point game because we were talking about his resume and him sending his stuff to some agents. And I
Hmm.
said, it's not the 35-point game that's going to matter because it could be that the agent doesn't even watch the whole game, you know,
Right.
if he only watches the first couple of minutes. So make sure it's a well-rounded game.
Oh
They're,
yeah.
they're going to want to see the mistakes that you make and what you do right after a mistake. It's
Right.
not going to be they're just going to look at you shooting the ball the whole time. They want to see how you go through screens on defense,
Yeah.
how you use a screen, how you
How do you hustle? How do you hustle? Do you get back on defense? Do you
right,
dive on the ground? Do you get loose
right,
balls? It's always the
right.
little 1% stuff that
Thank
coaches,
you.
agents, and scouts look at, right? So I knew I knew I had opportunity because I always played
So
hard.
that was up your lane. That
Yes,
served you well.
exactly. I always played hard. You know what I mean? And it only usually takes one of those guys
Right.
on a team
Thank
that
you.
changes the whole
Yep.
vibe of your team.
Yep.
So I was able to get my first contract, man. My agent was like, "Hey, I think I got something for you, man." So, quick story. I graduated, went back to Toronto. I was so unsettled for about 3 weeks. I'm like, I can't do this, man. I got to play. I got to figure out. So, that's when my friend hooked me up with the agent. I went back to Bradley, went to basketball camp, worked at basketball camp, started training with the team. I was
Right.
I was just playing basketball every day, workouts, weights, basketball. And I get a call. My agent's like, pack your bags. Like,
Yeah,
what are you talking
go.
about? What do you mean pack my bags? Yo, you're leaving tomorrow. I go, what? So I can't go back to Canada and see my parents? Nope.
You gotta
I
go.
I flew to O'Hare Airport. Let me tell you, I was nervous, excited because I was going to another country, didn't speak Portuguese, excited about the opportunity, but at the same time I was nervous. You know what I mean? So yeah, I hopped on a plane. They picked me up from Portugal airport, and yeah, the rest was history.
But what was it like for you, like right away when you got off the plane? Because it's a different world. Like you said, you don't speak Portuguese.
Yeah,
I played in Portugal as well, so I know Portuguese don't really speak a whole lot of English like
Yeah.
that, or many of them. But so you leave one, home or college where you were, and you fly overseas. You get off the plane, totally new world. What was your like first impressions when you got off the plane?
I'll be honest, I was excited. I was excited because this was something that I wanted to do. Like,
Yeah,
wanted to play. I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to be a professional. I wanted to play basketball. Most importantly, I wanted to travel the world, to be honest. And I remember, my God, I just want to travel the world. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't have the money, but I want to travel the world. And the only way I'll probably be able to do that and not have to pay a dime would be to play professional basketball. And that's exactly what I was able to do. So I was excited about the opportunity. I knew it was going to be, I knew it would be tough, but because I just went through the last 4 years, I knew I'd be okay, because each year I mentally got tougher. I got better as a basketball player. I got better as a person. And I knew that, if I wasn't ready for this opportunity probably wouldn't have came. So I was excited about the opportunity. I was ready to get to practice, to be honest.
how was it? Because of course, when you come overseas and you're a foreigner, is a totally different level of expectations than what you had in college. So your
Exactly.
role in college was you were a role player, you were that high energy guy, you were the glue guy. But now you come overseas, there's no glue guy for a foreigner. You
No,
know,
no, no.
you
There's
gotta
no glue
be
guy.
you gotta be the guy.
Yeah, yeah. And
So
that's
was that difficult for you the first couple of
no,
weeks to realize like, hey, yo, I gotta step up?
no. I was
You're
excited.
ready.
Oh, of course, of course. My agent gave me a little pep talk. He's like, Jay, you got to average a double double, man. 20 and 17. That's what he told me. You got to average 20 and 17. And I was like, I'm gonna do it. You need to play like your life depended on it. And I'm like, say say no more.
Yes,
Say
right.
exactly. Say no more. I will go and I'll. And that's exactly what I did, man. That's exactly what I did. Um, I want to say I played. I was the hardest working on the team. I had something to prove to myself, because I just went through 4 years of being a role player,
That's
and here
important.
and here's this team taking a chance on me. I didn't average double figures, you know what I mean? But they saw enough in that little film to be like, yeah, we like this guy. So I felt I had something to prove to myself, but most importantly to the team. So I went out there and did my best.
Um, how did was there a certain welcome to Europe moment when you first got out there, whether it be on the court or off the court, where you're just like, damn, I'm not back in Canada anymore. Like this is some different shit going on right here.
Um, there were many moments, man. There were many moments. So when I got there, they actually released the guy because he wasn't performing.
Right.
He
That's
came
why you had
there
to go soon. That's why you had to go soon because they
exactly.
needed somebody right away because they were firing somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't performing. So when I got there, he hadn't left yet. So they put me in a hotel like around the corner from where he was staying, and that guy was Canadian. So there's two imports per team, and the other guy was from Vancouver, and here I am from Toronto, and the guy hasn't left yet. So they're trying to keep us away from each other. They didn't want us to see each other. But I'm like, yo, this is stupid. So I ended up hanging out with this guy, coolest guy. Turned out he went home for Christmas, came back and was homesick, wasn't performing. So they're like, yo, we got to get this guy out. I came and replaced him, and you know, the language barrier probably was the toughest thing for me, because practice, I'm just standing there, just trying to like understand what the coach is trying to say. So you got to be paying attention.
He
From
didn't speak any English?
zero, zero English. So there's some guys that could speak English, but I knew, I was like, okay, I'm in another country. I'm officially in another country, you know, and I gotta pick up the plays. I gotta pick up,
Right.
the culture, and just respect the culture and the people, and just have the best experience possible.
How long did you play in Portugal? One season?
Yeah, I did one season there. So actually, I came midway through the season. So they
Oh
were,
yeah, yeah.
when I got there, they were 16th. They were in 16th place. So we were trying to make the playoffs. So by the time the season was done, we were tied for eighth spot,
Wow.
the conference. Yeah. So because the team that was tied with us, they beat us the first time when I wasn't there.
Right.
They made the playoffs even though we beat
Mm.
them the second time. So we were
Point
not
average.
now we were in the playouts,
Yeah.
if you know what the playouts
Yeah.
is. But yeah, that experience was amazing, man. Like I really that really opened my eyes to different type of basketball, new culture, and just like coming together, you know, for the common cause, trying to make the playoffs. But you know, our season turned around.
That's
From
dope.
16th to 8th, can't ask for anything better.
That's dope. So I really want to move on to what you're doing off the court. But I want to go back. The last thing I want to talk about your basketball career. Can you give your basketball career kind of like a summary of now that you're retired and you look back on it? Is there anything that you would tell yourself back when you first came out, kind of like, young guy, you got this? Like, is there anything that you would look back on and you wish you could tell yourself, or just give yourself some encouragement or something like that?
Yeah, I feel like I do this a lot. This question that you're asking me, I've done that so many times. I believe I worked hard, but I feel like I could have worked harder. I feel like I could have worked harder because you
Mm.
know the looking at like especially Canadians nowadays. There's like what 22 Canadians in the NBA
In the
now,
NBA
and
right now, yeah, yeah.
yeah, 22. So you know I really wanted to be a part of that Canadian, you know, crew of guys that had an opportunity to make it. I feel like um, probably with the I don't want to I don't want to cut myself short, but I feel like I did work hard, but I feel like I could have worked harder.
I know what you mean. I
You know
know
what I
what
mean?
you mean.
I
Yeah.
could have worked harder, and probably that goal probably would have been attained. But it didn't work out that way. But I'm not upset. I feel like I put some goals out there. I accomplished most of them. The coolest thing is I didn't get to play in the NBA, but I worked for the NBA. So you
So
know
you,
what?
you got there.
Right? You know what I mean? I was still getting a check from the NBA. I got hired by the NBA. They sent me out to India for 6 months, so I worked out there for the NBA. So I was getting in a way I still worked for the NBA. I was in the NBA.
You made it to the league,
I
brother.
mean, I went through I went the other way. So
For me,
uh,
you made it to the league.
yeah, I made it to the league, man. So at the end of the day, I feel like I did accomplish my
Right.
goal of making it to the NBA. I'm trying to make a comeback as far as working for the NBA again. So, my goal is to re-enter and be able to be a scout in the NBA for an NBA team. So, that's a goal of mine that I'm working towards. So,
Good. I wish you the best with that, man. Let's
thank you.
move on to what you're doing off the court. So,
Yeah,
you've got the you've got a clothing line. I know you are you still teaching?
yeah. I'm actually at school right now.
You're at
I
school right
at
now,
school. Yeah, I'm just
and
in my office. But yeah,
so yeah,
I'm the teacher.
you got a lot of things going on. Where did your moniker or your alter ego, Mr. Spread Love, where did that come from?
Um, a lot of it came from my upbringing. A lot of it came from my travels, my experiences, and just really being grateful for the opportunities that I've had. You know, um, just traveling to the different countries, and each country that I went to, the hospitality was crazy. I was a guest to their country, and these people that didn't know me basically just embraced me and made sure I was comfortable, and if I needed anything. And that's one thing I took from every country that I traveled to is how hospitable the locals were to me. And that was something that I took back to Toronto, and was like, hey, how can I serve my community, or how can I have the same hospitality that I received in serving others. So, Mr. Spread Love came from, and then obviously my brand, but a lot of my friends and people that know me, because I had the brand, they just called me Mr. Spread Love because they knew what I was about, right? So, yeah, that's basically where it came from.
Right now, I really want you to big yourself up. You know, I'm all about, giving my guests opportunity to openly publicize what they're doing. Um, Tell the people out there, tell the teammates out there, like what you're about, what you're doing off the court with Spread Love and with the clothing brand, and just kind of big yourself up a little bit.
All right. So yeah, this year will be this November, or this year will be 9 years that I started my brand. It's called Spread Love. Started basically as something that I've always wanted to do, but had no idea on how to do it. And there was a lot of violence at the time in Toronto, a lot of gang violence. Also, like I was saying, my travels, traveling to different countries and just being embraced in a positive way. I came up with an idea to start a brand that I feel would not only bring the community together, but kind of inspire people to not only do better, but live better. And I was working retail at Lululemon's, and they're a very goal oriented company, and they support the things that you want to do. So
Right.
I was very shocked at the goals that some of my coworkers wanted to accomplish in the next year, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And one of the things from a 1 year goal was to start a clothing brand, and didn't have any clue on how to do that. Just went online, researched how to get a shirts printed, and bought like 17 shirts, got them printed, and started giving them out. People were stopping me on the street like, "Yo, we love your shirt," and I was like, "Thanks. Where can I get it?" I'm like, "That's a good question." I didn't have a website. You know what I mean? So the more attention I was getting from people off the street, I was like, I gotta figure this out. And I had a friend in Seattle. He really good with technology and websites, and he put together a WordPress website for me. So he was good with coding and all that stuff. I had no clue on that. So he put the website together for me, and I officially launched the brand in 2015. And yeah, it's just been growing ever since, man. It's been cool to see the growth. Last year, I was in Foot Locker in the 10 stores across Canada. Did some work with Amazon as well, and I've been able to kind of start this movement in a lot of the schools that I've taught in. There's been a lot of like bullying happening, cyberbullying, and all that stuff, and I was able to bring some attention to bullying in a couple of the schools, and teachers started seeing my shirt and wanting it. So next thing you know, I had all the staff buying T-shirts, and then we started Spread Love Fridays. So basically, what Spread Love Fridays is kind of to inspire kids to treat each other with respect, to be kind, and trying to build community in the classroom and in the school. That was the vibe. That was what was happening, and we started to see a change in the behavior of the kids.
That's
Kids
cool.
wanted T-shirts now, and obviously being a teacher, I couldn't sell it to them. So what I did, any classes that I taught, and I knew the kids wanted T-shirts, I would surprise them at the end of the year. So I've been doing that for like the last 6, 7 years. Is June 30th, as soon as they're about to go for the summer, I pull out like 30 shirts, and you can hear my students screaming, "Oh my gosh!" So that was kind of like my thank you gift for allowing me to teach them and to
Right.
spread love throughout the summer, not just at school, but as a reminder that what, we can do better. We can inspire other people around us to spread love. So yeah, man, I think the sky's the limit. I'm really trying to push this brand. The last couple of years has been crazy. Obviously, with COVID and George
Right.
Floyd, and I feel we need more love, man. If we can just show more love and respect for each other, regardless of what you look like, your cultural background, your religion. At the end of the day, we can all love each other. You know what I mean? So that's where I come in to kind of be the catalyst and spark plug that.
I really appreciate that because I also work in school, so I know what it's like when you're dealing with some problem children, and you know, you want to help them, you want to help the community as well. And you know, you hear, I've heard it very often that when people start a clothing line, they say, "Oh, it's not just a clothing line; it's a lifestyle," you know.
Yeah.
But what I see is that you're living that. It's not just that catchphrase. It's more than a clothing brand. It's a lifestyle, but you're actively living that, and that's what I appreciate. And
And
that's
thank
that's dope, man. That's really dope.
thank you. You know, it's crazy. My students keep me accountable as well. So, you know, if I'm wearing it and I might say something or do something, the kids are quick, Mr. Faulkner, man, that's not spreading love. You know, and I'm like, you know what? You're right. Thanks. So, you know, they hold me accountable. They hold me accountable, and I want to make sure that I'm representing, you know, representing my brand well. Obviously, you know what I mean.
Right.
Obviously, being a teacher, there's a lot of responsibility, and you know, I care about my students, and I think the biggest thing is just preparing them, but also just teaching them the simple stuff, just kindness. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you look like, that everyone deserves respect, and you know, just to be kind, because you never know what people are going through in their life, in their personal life, and you know, just a word might change the course of someone's day just by
Exactly.
a simple hello, or you good? You need any
Yeah.
help with anything? You know,
Yeah.
need a snack? Like, what's up? You know what I mean? So that's where I come in, man.
Is it safe to say that, I mean, you mentioned it before as well, but is it safe to say that because you were able to leave Canada first to go to America, you left America to come overseas to play ball, you traveled the world, that that was kind of like a catalyst to, yeah, your future and what you're doing now? Like how big of an influence was the ability to travel, the ability to make new friends in different cultures and things like that? Was it for you?
Yes, I think that's a big part of it. You know, obviously being from Toronto, you being from Toronto, everyone knows how diverse Toronto is, and it's a melting pot, man. There's so many different cultures and countries in Toronto, and just being able to go to certain countries and be like, yo, I have a friend from India, I have a friend from Taiwan, I have a friend from
Right.
Portugal. Like, I have a better understanding and a respect for their culture and where and how they grew up and why they are the way they are.
Yeah.
So coming back with a new um, mentality, I think it was an easy adjustment for me to live in those countries because I've had friends that are from those countries, and being invited to their homes and
Mm.
embracing the culture was an easy transition for me. Um, One story, I remember playing in Taiwan, talking to my teammates. They were so shocked that I was eating the food that they were eating.
Right.
And I told them, I'm like, listen, man, like my mom's from the Caribbean. My mom makes rice. She makes this. The spices are a little different. I eat the same thing
Right.
as you guys, you know, because they told me the import the year before never ate with them.
Right. Yeah.
And I was sitting at the same table as these guys eating food. And they were like, no, they were like, oh my gosh, this is like, I'm like, guys, I've eaten this before. Like, chicken? Yes. Yeah. Yes, it is chicken. I know. I know what chicken is. You know what I mean? They eat a lot of different stuff, but I stuck to what I knew. You know what I mean? So even
Right.
the food that I did know, they were shocked that I was eating it. So,
Right.
but again, they don't have to adjust to me. I'm in their country. I got to adjust to them. So, you know, I'm open. I was open minded in that sense where I need to adjust. I'm in their country. They don't need to adjust to me. So,
That is the message, man. That is I that is that warms my heart because in my consultations and when I speak to athletes, and usually it's a lot of Americans, and when they're about to make the transition to come to Europe, and one of the things I tell them is you have to be open.
you
It's
have to.
it's not going to be like Europe or
Yo,
wherever you're going is going to adapt to you. You have to
it
adapt
it
to
is it
them.
will if you don't open that mind up, it's going to be the worst 9 months of your life.
Yep.
You're going to be
Yep.
by yourself. You're going to be in your room watching movies, Netflix, and playing video games.
Isolated.
Yeah, like it's an experience, man. Like I traveled Taiwan. I saw the country. Like I saw the city. I was in Taipei, Portugal. I was around the man. I was all over. I went to a soccer game. I went to Castle. I was in Lisbon. I was in Porto. Like Australia, I was driving everywhere. It was an amazing experience. You know, you don't know when you're going to be back in that country.
Exactly.
Might as well soak it up. So that's what I did. Man. I have relationships still to this day. I have friends that are like, hey, whenever you come, you know you have somewhere to stay. And I think that's the biggest thing too. Like I just didn't go to play ball. I built relationships with a lot of people. And, you know, once they found out you're Canadian, they love you. You know what I mean? So
hey, Canadians are the nicest people on the planet.
Listen,
seriously, I've never met a Canadian that wasn't a nice person.
Listen, man, let me tell you, I was in Australia. Everyone thought I was American until I said Canada. And they were like, yo, you're just like us. We love Canadians. I was like, yo, right? If you're cool with me, I'm cool with you. You know what I mean? The hospitality was great. One of my favorite places to play and live was Australia.
That's dope, man. Hey, man, that's all I got for you today. Thank you very much for coming on. Thank you for answering my spontaneous call to anybody who wanted to be on the show to tell their story. You helped me out a lot with this show that I didn't have everything set up like I normally do, and I just wanted to vibe. And I thought this was dope, man. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day and you know, helping me out and doing this for me as well.
Appreciate it, man. Thanks again for having me on. I think this concept, what you're doing, is a lot better. You know, just going off the top.
Off the dome.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way. You know what I mean? Yeah, you might have your questions here and there, but for the most part, man, this was good, man. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, man.
For everybody that supported, everyone that's watching, thanks for your time as well, man.
No problem, man. Hey, I'm gonna hit you up after this is over, but thank you, again. Get on up out of here. Go to work before somebody try to fire you or something like that. And
see you, bro.
Seb, that's my best friend. That's my guy.
That's my guy too.
That's my best friend.
Yeah, he went to Humber. Yes.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, get on out of here. Go to work. Let me say goodbye to the people
here. All right, man.
Then...
Take it easy, man.
Thanks, man.
All right,
take care. So everyone, thank you for tuning in. This was a little bit of a how do I say it? It was difficult for me to do this episode. Really difficult because I didn't have everything set up like I normally do, and I like to be prepared. I like to have my ducks in a row. I like to make sure I know what I'm going to talk about. And this was really, I asked some questions that I normally ask, but it was really a lot just off the vibe of how he and I were going at it. And I really like doing it, and maybe I'll do it a little bit more in the future. But as usual, we've come to the end. I have a very nice guest on for next week, someone outside of the world of basketball. So it'll be pretty interesting for those of you that play other sports in Europe. So I'm not going to give it too much away, but yeah, it should be a good one. And yeah, as usual, thank you for tuning in, whether you tuned in for 1 minute or the 58 minutes that we're live right now. I appreciate you. If you were new, I hope to see you again next week. If you're old, I hope to see you again next week. And yeah, I hope by next week my sinus infection will be a little bit better so I can talk a little bit differently or normal. And yeah, everybody stay safe, and I'll catch you next week. Old head out.